Israel is starving the people of Gaza intentionally. Israel bombs hospital. Israel is committing a genocide. All of this is what you hear typically when you follow the current war uh, via most mainstream media outlets in the West. And so this latest incident is, of course, a gift for them, not a gift in the sense that anything they say has been proven, but a gift in the sense that there is one more thing that they can distort and pretend that what they are saying about the conflict is the case, rather than the exact opposite, as in Israel is the side trying to prevent a genocide. So the latest incident is that a UNRWA school was bombed by Israel, was targeted from the air because there were terrorists hiding there. So, that seems like a pretty basic thing that you have to do in war. You have to kill the people trying to kill you, but if you look at the headlines across the world, it is Israel bombs a school by the UN. There's a lot that we can say about choosing to paint it that way, and we will say it. Daniel, your thoughts on this story?
I mean, I have a lot of thoughts. Just wondering where to start, but probably my favorite thing is that yeah, Hamas can do no wrong. Is pretty much the point or the main thing from this story, but has been something that has been going on for a while. I mean, look, Hamas attacks Israel on October 7th. Even before they were sending rockets every day, there's been rocket attacks and have even been since. So Hamas attacks Israel on October 7th and kills more than 1,000 Israelis, mainly civilians, but also some soldiers. After that, they go back to their homes and literally they hide in the homes of civilians because they don't have any bases. They hide in hospitals, they hide in schools. And when Israel attack, has to pretty much yeah, conduct war, it has to bomb the places or it has to kill Hamas soldiers. And the only way to do it because of Hamas is to, again, bomb houses, bomb schools, and bomb hospitals, and in this case, bomb schools. But again, the international community has agreed that Hamas can do no wrong. So the story is Israel is just randomly attacking these yeah, schools. I mean, there's been and you know, Hamas plays into that. There's been the director general of the government communications office in Gaza has said that this is a horrific genocide that shames humanity, and we call on the international community to put pressure on Israel to stop genocide in Gaza. So, you know, they are using the words that everyone is using. There's a genocide in Gaza. Look, they attack schools, they attack hospitals. I mean, it's horrible. And yeah, they are getting what they want. They are getting the media behind them. They are getting the international community. And as we said in the past, the policy is always determined. The policy of the Western countries is always determined by the most recent story. And since this is the recent story, I imagine more UNRWA funding or possibly even resuming of UNRWA funding, and yeah, more support for Hamas.
Yeah, policy change based on the latest story and based on how the latest story is reported. So a few of the headlines for this story were dozens killed in Israeli airstrike on UN-run school, Gaza authorities say. Dozens killed in Israeli strike on UN school, witnesses say. Dozen killed in strike uh, doesn't kill and strike UN school, Israel says used by Hamas. Which is, that's as good as we can find. So you hear that, you hear dozens killed in school. The first thing you think is children. You hear school, the first thing you think is there are children. There must be children there, and of course there are no children in schools, presumably at all right now in Gaza, but certainly not when and where Israel strikes. But that doesn't feature, and if it features way down, except for this one headline that says, well, Israel says it was used by Hamas. Now, Israel has um, given out the names of some of the terrorists that were killed there, and has responded to the response where Palestinians say 45 civilians died. So terrorists count as civilians, of course, to the Palestinians. But
Yeah,
yeah,
let me just quickly jump into that. I think it's amazing how Israel, whenever Israel bombs something, it somehow always manages to get the 70% 70% civilians ratio, or rather 70% women and children. Whenever there is, I think in this case it's like 66% or something like that. But it's always just about that magic number somehow.
yeah, and again, it's never challenged. As you mentioned, Hamas spokespeople now use words like genocide, the words that their representatives in the West and Western media have been using, and the West repeats this without a second thought. Western media repeats this without a second thought of, we are now using the same language and the same arguments and taking the same side in a war of people who a few months ago live streamed themselves slaughtering people in the most horrific ways in their homes, in a music festival, everywhere they could get them, and took multiple people hostage. I mean, with Western reporting on this, you have to you have to ask what goes on in the minds of those people, and what is how they can live with themselves, knowing that this is who they're siding with, and knowing that they are, by reporting it in this manner, creating the next student intifada, the next the next protest in London, the next chance in whatever form they're presented, but chants essentially calling for the extermination of the Jews, whether it's from the river to the sea, whether it's references to the Nakba being the very fact that Nakba being disaster in Arabic, and it referencing the very fact that Jews have a place where they can live in the Middle East.
Yeah, and something that's particularly disturbing about this story, whenever you see the headlines, it's always, yeah, Israel bombs UN school, or what I want to say is when they report casualties, for example, they say, oh, this many casualties according to the if they are the more trying to be more correct, they say Hamas run Gaza Health Ministry. But I think even just reporting that, I think it's such a massive context drop, because it still assumes a certain amount of credibility. When you see the headline, this has happened, and someone is reporting that, it still has some credibility. And I think by media's doing these headlines, doing this reporting, they are giving in to Hamas propaganda. They are giving in to basically what Hamas wants, because people ignore that. People, they just see. I mean, what is reported, that 45 people have been dead, and this is report. It's reported, but it still feels like a fact, or people take it as a fact. It's not really challenging the way that it should be, and I think this is the big problem right now. I have one more thing, but do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah. Well, there was a question of whether the media is actually falling for whatever trap Hamas is setting, or actually knowingly pushing an agenda. And I think with people in the media, I kind of it's difficult to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think it's typically knowledgeable people who are knowledgeable enough, that yeah, I don't think they have an excuse here. I think they know what they're doing is creating, at the very least, again, at the very least in the West, where people listen to them, creating the next big protest, the next anti-Semitic incidents. They know that anti-Semitism rises when people are encouraged to be anti-Semitic, and this is what the media is doing when it's reporting that the one Jewish state is killing kids, which they're not saying, but they are implying it, knowing it is not true, when the headline chooses to emphasize bombing a school, rather than saying, look, this is a building that we're told is a school, is run by UNRWA. We know UNRWA we know UNRWA is Hamas essentially. We know we know what they teach in these schools, and we also know there are no kids there. They're not being taught there at this time. So, um, yeah, I think, yeah, like I said, I don't think the media, those who choose to report this, have any excuse to do so.
So one more thing. So the number one supplier of GoPro cameras to Palestinians, the Israeli rights group B'Tselem, has also said there is has called this strike a suspected war crime, which is very weird term to use. Uh, but something that's more important is they said if, as Israel claims, Hamas used the school to plan military operation, and again, this as Israel claims, as it's something we've never heard before, that Hamas uses schools or hospitals or homes of people as to conduct military operation. Uh, if they did it, this action is illegal, meaning that Hamas shouldn't do that. But it cannot justify the massive harm to civilians who sought shelter in the school from the horror of the prolonged fighting. And again, this brings out the massive context drop, yeah, nothing has happened in the past. This is the basically universe has started when Israel has bombed UNRWA school, as if has yeah, as if I would ask, how do these people actually, if they believe countries should be able to defend themselves, how they expect Israel to defend itself? And as sinister as it might seem, yeah, I don't think they believe so, that any country has a right to defend itself. It should just yeah, it should just let itself be killed, because the other side is that Palestinians would die, and because of that, despite the fact that again they have elected Hamas, they still largely support Hamas. Yeah, just because some of the civilians would die, yeah, tough luck, Israel. You don't have right to exist.
Yeah, it's times like these and incidents like this that really show so-called human rights organizations for what they really are. I think they show themselves for what they really are, you know, every day. But this is one of those special incidents. And B'Tselem is particularly bad, as you mentioned. They supply terrorists with the cameras from which to produce the propaganda that is then used in the West to say, look, and of course, B'Tselem is an organization that anti-Semites around the world can say, oh, look, we're not anti-Semitic at all. Look, even these Israelis agree with us. And yeah, the wording of that suspected war crime, I guess they have to say it that way because it's an ongoing thing. But we know where the suspicion will land. We know that Israel will be found guilty by the likes of B'Tselem, no matter what. And yeah, for B'Tselem to word it in a way like that, like, look, maybe the guys on the other side aren't all 100% perfect, but even if they're doing what you're saying, you can't actually do anything about it. And that is the essence of what these organizations do. So no, they don't want any free country to ever defend itself against savages of any kind. And and they're getting their way because Israel is unfortunately, incidents like this are very rare. If Israel wanted to had no intelligence about who is where in Gaza and wanted to kind of pick the highest probability targets, the first thing they would do is bomb all the schools. Because, again, kids won't be there, and terrorists know that this is what can be used for their propaganda going forward. So they would think Israel wouldn't do that. If they do, it's a win-win for them. Um, but yeah, Israel is unfortunately way too careful with that. And in a sense, we can see why, although I think the right thing to do is to keep doing it and stand up to the response, the pro-Hamas response. And call it out for what it really is.
Yeah, something that and I don't know the right word for it, but something that I guess maybe pleased me a little bit about this is when I read the headlines, and oftentimes it's really interesting when someone is so opposite of you that anything they say that they mean as something bad, you see as positive. So what I've seen, and I'm not sure to what extent this is true, but I've heard, I think this came actually from UNRWA, that they said this was an unexpected attack, meaning that Israel didn't let people know beforehand that they would attack this. Again, I don't know if this is true, but when I saw it, I was like, oh wow, finally, it doesn't warn these terrorists before they strike that they are going to strike. But again, this is reported as something bad, as like, oh yeah, they didn't give warning to these terrorists that they should get out before they strike the building. Uh, and yeah, this is something like, yeah, I hope it's true, and I hope Israel will continue with this idea, with this new idea of not informing terrorists that they're gonna get attacked.
Yeah, and if Israel does that, which I don't think this is a change of policy, but if Israel did want to change its policy, yeah, it would have to, it would have to fight back against itself. It would have to fight back against its own policy up until now, and how the West is expecting that, and is expecting the West is expecting to be able to attack Israel for bombing empty buildings after informing the people in the building that they're about to bomb it. So if they have to start attacking Israel about bombing buildings where the terrorists are still there and not informed, then that's going to be a whole new uh, thing. It's kind of a next level thing, next level in the right direction. But those who support Hamas, of course, would not like it. But yeah, I kind of the one field where Israel sometimes tries to fight back is diplomatically, and I'm kind of hoping and seeing a little bit that they might be pushing back on the idea that they did anything wrong here. And Look, I think they should have done the same thing with the what's it called, World Central Kitchen attack when the convoy was attacked, and rightfully so, as we later learned. But Israel still apologized for it, even when it knew it was the right thing to do, because there were armed people around it, and you don't take risks. Because the last time Israel took such risks of saying, "Well, they're unarmed, let's let them in," was October 7th. So, yeah, I don't expect this to be a change of policy, but I would love it if it was, and if not, we can at least at least it's another opportunity to see where those who supposedly report the news for us, where they really stand, because this reporting is very clearly trying to get people to have a certain opinion of this.
Yeah, and maybe to give it a sort of an objective spin, and I've seen many of our new viewers have actually started reading Atlas Shrugged. So maybe a slight comparison. Whenever you talk about, someone who is the moral side, someone who is the powerful side, yet they feel they are morally doing something wrong, and the idea of Hank Rearden from Atlas Shrugged always springs into my mind, who basically, yeah, was someone who was moral according to our standard and was powerful, was strong, yet felt as if he is the immoral one. And the main thing to learn from that is that once you stop accepting the moral premise of your enemies, once you stop accepting that what you're doing is wrong, they lose all power. And I think it would be similar here. The reason why media can report, well, Israel hasn't warned people beforehand, or Israel hasn't given enough warning, or made sure that the civilians would be protected, is because this is Israel's policy. This is what Israel believes in, and believes this is why they are moral. Is because they do report it. I mean, even in this specific one, when IDF has announced that they did this, they said, "Well, we made sure that as little civilian casualties would be would be done." Basically, yeah, they are completely adhering to the moral principles of the enemy's side. But the problem is that the conclusion of the moral principles from the enemy side is to end Israel. And in this way, Israel will never be able to fully conduct to the moral principle of their enemies.
Jared in the chat says, watch Pierre Rehov's documentary, Hostages of Hatred. It clarifies the true goals and motives of UNRWA. I will watch that. I haven't, but I remember Pierre Rehov from around 20 years ago. He did a documentary. I think it was called The Road to Jenin, but it was about the so-called Jenin massacre. There was an IDF operation in Jenin. They wouldn't let international media in there. They ended up so the reporting was there's a massacre, 500 people died. We've mentioned 500 is a number they like to throw out there. 500 people were killed, civilians, women, children, all the usual Palestinian propaganda lies. When an investigation eventually happened, it turned out that 53 people died. Most of them were terrorists. 23 IDF soldiers died. But the goal had been achieved. Nobody listens to what some investigating committee says a year later when nobody remembers what happened. They listen to the headline. They see Israel slaughters innocent civilians, and that's what they take from it. So I remember his documentary responding to those those lies back then, and yeah, I based on that, I would recommend him as well, and I'll watch that documentary that you mentioned. Thank
Yeah,
you, Noble. Yeah.
and just quickly, we've seen that even here, when it comes to Al Shifa Hospital, some people are still saying that Israel did it because that was the first thing that happened. Some people are still not accepting the fact that it was the Islamic Jihad.
Yeah. It was a few weeks ago was the last time I checked if it's still on Jeremy Corbyn's Twitter, and it is. Thank you, Garbled Words, for the super chat. Thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. Thank you, Akira, for the super chat. Akira says, "Welcome back, Razi. Have any hope in the West now?" Look, I'm still very pessimistic. I'm always a bit less pessimistic or a bit more optimistic when I'm in the US because I think it's still the greatest country in the world, and I'm in the US now for the next couple of weeks. But no, I think we have our work cut out for us, but we will continue to do whatever is possible to prevent where I think this is going. And if you agree and if you think that the work we do can help prevent that, I encourage you to obviously like and comment and share if you can. All that is free to do and helps with the algorithm. And of course, if you are able to become a member of the Ayn Rand Center UK or a YouTube member, and support our work and get access to additional content. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, everybody, for watching. And the Daily Objective and the reality show return tomorrow at their normally scheduled times.